I am in Adobe Illustrator and I spent a good maybe 5 hours or so putting together a client presentation the way I feel like would follow a lot of the rules that was set forth that I found in research and just the rules of kind of the hundreds of client presentations I put together in the past. Kind of that basic overall structure where you're presenting the concept and then you're just telling them why you chose colors and typography, and then also seeing it applied to a final product. So following that same basic formula, this is kind of what I put together for Sushi Club. And what I love about this is I decided to turn this into a template for you guys so you can download it and you could put your version of your brand, whatever brand you're working on throughout the class, whether it's Sushi Club or something else you decided to do. I want you to take that and see if you can't maybe make a presentation. So here's the template. You can download. I left some of the Sushi Club on there so that you can kind of know where you might want to place items. It's a very, very basic template. It's not super detailed, but it kind of gives you an idea of maybe an order for recommendation of kind of some things to talk about. So I love to do a cover photo, especially when you're going to do a PDF or a slide deck. You want to have some kind of very simple cover photo because there's going to have to be that transitional. You don't want to start right away with something that's detailed. You want to slowly move them into the presentation. So when you're doing a presentation, you want to have the screen up for a while you're introducing yourself to the clients, you're introducing the project. Same goes for a PDF presentation. You want them to open it up and gently be invited into the presentation. You're not throwing a lot of information at them in the first slide or the first page of the PDF. You want it to be very simple and have some very basic brand elements echoed throughout that page. So in this case, instead of putting the full logo, I decided to put just the chopsticks. And I decided to also, in the same typographic system that we set up earlier, I'm doing kind of a lowercase brand presentation and just having the name. And I decided to do the circular typography because that's a lot through some of our examples. I wanted to have that echoed in the front. And also make sure you state your name, especially if this is going to be a PDF. You want to get some credit for all that. So have your logo down on the bottom right. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. So as with a lot of the other examples, I decided to start off with a breakdown of the anatomy of the logo and the meaning behind everything, the meaning behind the concept. I threw in a little sketch, but if you wanted to do a presentation that had lots, like maybe a couple of different sketches that kind of showed how you slowly got to the final concept or what else you explored as well, I wouldn't put too many images that it's distracting. So just maybe put a couple. In this case, I just did the one sketch, just kind of a little background watermark to kind of just a little hint of where we started from and where we ended up. And I described the chopsticks. So why chopsticks? So in this case, I wrote some copy here. The chopstick icon featured predominantly in the logo represents the intersection of what people expect of sushi and the more authentic experience we deliver. So I'm using keywords from our research. If we didn't go through that extensive research stage at the beginning of the course, I wouldn't be able to write this really well. But since we spent so much time with the brand, this was very easy to write because I'm just writing everything that I discovered and what it means. So it was the intersection of what people expect. So I have authentic experiences as one side of the chopstick and what people expect from sushi kind of intersecting. It is also an icon that is simple to understand and connect with sushi, making it easy for people to quickly identify you and your specialty. So you noticed how I'm writing to the client directly. This is almost like writing a letter to the client. So instead of writing to a broad audience, I'm writing to one person or a group of people. So notice when I say it's easy for people to quickly identify you and your specialty I'm talking to them directly the way I'm crafting. You know, when you do a portfolio presentation, you're saying, this is what we did. This is what we did as a design agency. In this case, so it's kind of a different way to write. So I just threw in a few little colors in there as an introduction to perhaps some colors, and I present colors a little bit later. So just kind of very, very simple. And I wanted to talk about kind of the research stage next, because we already presented the logo, then now we have to define who they are, what they are. This would probably not necessarily always be included in a portfolio presentation, but these are important for the client to understand. So in this case, if you could sum up the Sushi Club in 3 words, and so I have authentic, generous, and loyal. So when we did the 3 word association exercises, and these were the 3 characteristics that we came up with, and I just went into a little bit more detail. I have a sample of this as a PDF if you want to download and be able to look along with this and read all the details. And you'll notice something when I'm putting together this presentation. You'll notice I'm using the same Montserrat typeface. So I'm using Montserrat, and I'm using the same sizes that I set up in the typographic system so that my presentation matches with the brand. So I'm presenting in system I set together. And so I'm using lowercase throughout the headline as well. So I'm kind of showing off a little bit of the brand within the presentation itself. I'm also using this dark slate color as well in the background. And also with our circles that we have as brand assets, when we have our brand language, we put everything in these little circles that represent the maki or the sushi. I'm also using those shapes to encapsulate some of my design elements and text. So once again, I'm extending the brand out into the presentation itself. I'm making them integrated. And don't be afraid to use photos. I just kind of use this photo quickly to just kind of set the mood for that particular page. And this is one of the photos I selected, one of my 10 to 20 photos that I selected for the library for this brand as well. So I'm slowly introducing those photos. So everything has some kind of reason and story. So I'm kind of sneak peek of the photos and a sneak peek at some of the brand elements and the colors. They're all kind of sneaking out in the presentation itself. So this is another thing you might not always include in the portfolio presentation, but I think it's really important if you went through this step to present it to the client. They need to know that you went into all the research and detail to develop a user or customer profile or persona. They need to know what you discovered and that you went through this process, because that's pretty intense, and you want to be able to get that credit to show, hey, this is who I'm designing this whole thing for, and talk about kind of them. And I just did a very simple header. So your future customer, and notice how I say your, like I'm talking directly to the client. Your future customer is educated, lives a full busy life, and loves the experience of food. So I kind of surmised everything into one quick little paragraph, just talking quickly about them so that they can, if they want to see more details, they can, but it kind of encapsulates who we're trying to design this for. So with the next page, I wanted to talk about style direction and how we had a couple of different style boards that we put together, stylescapes. And these was the 2 that we wanted based on the client brief. They wanted 2 different styles to show, and that's what we came up with. But the brand that we came up with was really right down the middle. We combined this poppy bright style with a reserved one to come up with what we have, which has some of those dark, deep, rich colors, but it's got pops of color and fun in it as well with the brand voice and brand language. So just wanted to present that. You could have one stylescape or style or mood board, any of those things that you developed. You could have 3. And so that's what I said, a convergence of styles combining tradition and elegance with a bright, fun undertone. So this was the ethos and the beginning and the thought process behind style. A great quality and solid presentations is finding a way to present 2 things at once. So this way, we're presenting the characteristics of our brand voice or brand language, which is authentic, clever, bold, memorable, and playful. But we're also applying it to a real application via a mock-up. So we're able to show off the logo, we're showing off the brand language, we're showing off the colors, and we're talking about our brand voice all at once. And so it's finding ways to talk about these things and merging a few of them together. So I feel like this is a really good example of that. I also showed some other examples of brand language. And so you can download this and read through some of the little details, but it says delivery made fun. So it's just kind of a quick, I like putting headlines on every page to break everything down for them. These are fun phrases to decorate the delivery bags. Most sushi restaurants have plain, boring white plastic bags. These bags will feature a sticker featuring clever phrases that are sure to make someone smile. And so at the end of listing the key characteristics, I say the brand language developed and used throughout different advertising, logo packaging, external communications are bold statements that are balanced with a pinch of playfulness. They're memorable and not easy to forget. So I'm starting to talk about what the brand is in terms of their characteristics, that they might be a little bit more playful and fun. So one of my favorite pages to present is presenting the color palette. So I wanted to have one big headline that surmised what was my inspiration for the color palette. And that was colors inspired by the untouched beauty that is fresh, raw fish. So the vibrant, fresh palette is an ode to the various raw fish and seafood that Sushi Club will serve. The 4 strong primary color hues and several secondary color options provide a deep, versatile color palette with flexibility. Sound familiar? We want to talk about how flexible this palette is. We have 4 primary colors and we have lots of secondary colors. And doing my research, there are so many cool ways to present color palettes. So there's really not a wrong way to present color, but you definitely want to talk about how flexible your color palette is. In this case, I have little swatches, and I went into Procreate, and I was able to handwrite some of these words so that I can give it a little bit more of a crafted look. So I wrote down tuna, I wrote down salmon, I wrote down yellowtail, and I saved that as a PNG with a transparent background, and I just put it in Photoshop to create these little kind of extra, it's like an extra little graphic here that I have, a little PNG that kind of added. I felt like it kind of helped to tell the story and support the narrative. I also put my mood board, my photo mood board there because that's where I did the eyedropper tool to source these colors, and I wanted to do this. So you can see how it's crafted as a story. There's these couple of elements put together that help to set the stage for explaining color.